Today we'll be going over specifically the February updates. So just a quick refresher on eCapital and who we are, just for those of you who may be new to the call today. At eCapital, we're really focused on building long-term relationships with our clients, that are leading organizations, within the industries, and definitely trying to, partner with them to take, our implementations far past just a technical standpoint, and ultimately looking forward to, feeling like we have our clients be enabled, empowered, and accomplished. We are established. We're over 80 employees and growing in multiple states throughout the U.S. We have over 300 global customers at this point, and have more than just our EPM practice as far as capabilities. We also dive deep into business analytics, data architecture, implementations and upgrades, advisory services and road mapping, and all the way down to kind of managed services there. So just kind of taking a quick look at some of our different clients throughout the years from an industry perspective, it kind of gives you a view of kind of what we're working with here. And then overall, the large kind of logo slide just showing a variety of clients in a variety of different industries throughout the years here. So I am Ryan Kohler, a manager with the EPM practice at eCapital. Typically joined by Bob Usted as well. He will be unable to join us today, so I'll be kind of guiding you through this journey today solo. So big shoes to fill for me, but hopefully I can get the job done. So as a quick reminder too, for those of you who are new to the webinar series regarding the PBCS monthly updates, this is a process that we've been doing for about 18 months now, where we as eCapital really take the time to review the monthly release schedule that gets delivered by Oracle, kind of go through that on a monthly basis, and make sure that you as the clients can come out and really see what we've done from a testing perspective and an overview perspective, so that you're ready to go for that next month's release schedule, and you feel like you're knowledgeable and have a good understanding of what some of those new features are. So before we jump into the February new features, why don't we just go over a refresher here quick on what is PVCS exactly. So PVCS is Oracle's subscription-based planning, budgeting, cloud service. Ultimately it will provide a wonderful simplified interface that's easy to navigate through via the web and also mobile devices. Also kind of packaged with the product itself is financial reporting, data input forms, and even some light dashboarding. So real high level kind of overview here, but really best in class industry practice for your planning and budgeting solution. Some options on why you should choose PBCS and why it may be a good fit for your organization. Obviously the faster innovation is key. So shorter upgrade cycles. So those of you who have been through an upgrade within an on-prem environment know some of the pain points of going through those processes, and also know that after 2 years past your upgrade, you're probably due for another one to really take advantage of some of those key features with the product. In the cloud, you're always getting those monthly releases pushed down to your instance of PBCS. So therefore, you never really have to worry about that upgrade cycle again, which is a real huge benefit there. Faster deployment, depending on some of the options you select within your cloud budgeting service solution, you can have kind of some pre-configured modules such as like financials or workforce, and also just the seamless integration between other Oracle Cloud products is also a big key benefit of the product itself. Lower cost, obviously I think that goes without saying, from a hardware perspective and IT perspective, because you're now being hosted within an Oracle database center, you no longer have to worry about getting your own servers, paying for server monitoring, IT professionals that would help monitor the environments, all that's out the window, which leads to kind of lower risk. So, what we've seen traditionally in an on-prem environment, no matter how hard you try or how hard you monitor the environment, there's always that inevitable situation where a server goes down or, planning services go down, and you just hope that it's not during a key point in a month-end close process or a quarterly reporting cycle. And with PVCS and Oracle Cloud, you really don't ever experience any of that downtime. And when you do, it's very small and it's scheduled, and you're well aware of it ahead of time. So just a few different features that I think are important to consider when going through the evaluation process of whether or not PBCS might be right for you and your organization. Again, I will say don't forget about EPBCS. That is officially the enterprise edition of Oracle's subscription-based planning, budgeting, cloud service. And again, that kind of hit on it a little bit in the prior slide, but that's really the option that provides some pre-built modules for you that kind of gives you a starting point for your development. As well as gives you some helpful guidance on things like workforce, and CapEx planning if your organization has not already adopted a formal solution. So traditionally, that's been the projects, financials, workforce, and CapEx modules. And just last summer, they introduced the strategic modeling module within EPBCS, which is essentially taking over the on-prem strategic finance model. So, more to come on that, and we have certainly seen a large focus on some of these releases on enhancing that strategic modeling module as we move forward. So do also want to point out, regardless of if you're selecting PVCS or EPBCS, you do have the SmartView Excel add-in, and actually it's really more than just the Excel add-in. I think that's where people typically gravitate to, but technically you do have the full Microsoft Office suite available to integrate with SmartView. So Microsoft Word, not a ton of big use cases I can think of there, but we have seen organizations adopt SmartView with PowerPoint, for monthly, reporting decks and things like that. If you have a data point or multiple data points that you're continually reporting to leadership, a pretty good opportunity there to integrate SmartView with PowerPoint. So why don't we jump into probably the reason you're here today, to review the new features for the February release. So as we always will do, we'll kind of look at the table of contents here first, and go through some of the standard PBCS updates, the enterprise updates, as well as some removal of support reminders. We did see actually a slight change in the cloud readiness release guide from 2017 into 2018. So if you were to go out and look onto Oracle's website today, you would actually see new in February includes not only the February updates, but also the January updates. So we'll see how that goes in March as well, if they're going to continue to kind of revisit all of the months from kind of a year-to-date perspective, or if it's just going to be the current and prior included in the most updated release readiness guide. So a couple things that I have also seen that Oracle is definitely promoting more and more within the release guide itself is just reminders on the Oracle Cloud Customer Connect, which again is a very helpful place. If you are an Oracle Cloud customer today, has important release info on multiple Oracle Cloud products, upcoming events that you might be interested in, as well as some Q&A forums. So kind of a nice central spot there. New to this month, they actually made it easier to connect to the Oracle Cloud Customer Connect interface. So within your homepage, you can actually access this, and there's a little note there on the bottom of the PowerPoint that kind of walks you through that. So some helpful information there, and again, if you are an Oracle Cloud subscriber, certainly encourage you to reach out and join the community, as you can find a lot of important information and helpful information. The other thing that Oracle is continuing to drive home within every release is the documentation feedback aspect. So starting last month, they had this as well, but they're definitely encouraging the end user community to provide feedback on any documentation and send that to the email address listed here, and kind of indicate what cloud service you're currently using, and what monthly update cycle you're referencing when trying to update some of that documentation. So when we look at February itself, these updates went into your test environment on February 2nd, and they're about to hit your production environment February 16th here, so tomorrow. And we'll kind of go through some of the changes here now. So the first one being the new EPM Automate Utility. So nothing new here. Every time some new functions get added to the EPM Automate Utility, they will release another version that allows an end user to basically leverage those new commands. So, similar to this month, they have a new version available, and you can download that via the interface. And this is actually kind of a cool update they put to it. So if you look there on the bottom screenshot, you'll see that the upgrade command has been added to this latest EPM Automate Utility. And in this version, the syntax is fairly straightforward. If you look at that usage example there, you can just essentially at the beginning of a process have that command EPM Automate upgrade there, and we'll actually silently install the newest version of the EPM Automate Utility, on the server that you're using it on. So you may have a common, server that you're, maybe a remote desktop that you're logging into, something like that, where you're running some of these commands off of. It may be simply a laptop, but either way, however you have that set up for your EPM Automate Utility integration, this is kind of a helpful command now that will make sure you always have the latest and greatest version of EPM Automate. So that was a pretty good enhancement there. The next piece is new rules usage report. So they've enhanced some of the capabilities of looking at the EPM cloud reporting. So you can actually go and reference the system reports via the navigation control pane. And here on the screenshot on the left, you'll see you can select rules details. And you have a lot of different filter options there. So you can actually filter by a specific rule itself. You can look at different plan types or cubes. And then you can select a format that you want to export this into. So, PDF or Excel is probably the most common one. For this example here, I've selected PDF just because I think it would look a little bit nicer for the presentation. But you'll see here now, all of the rules in our application have been listed, and it will tell you the rule type. So whether it's a business rule or a rule set, and the cube that it's a part of, and then the primary association. So in this case, most of the primary associations are forms. You can also have secondary associations. So where this can come in to be a helpful guide for you as an administrator is if you're getting questions on, what is the usage around these specific business rules, you could come in here very quickly and select just one business rule, run this report, and it's going to tell you all of the other objects that it's associated within your application. So a nice helpful reference guide here, especially from an administrative perspective. The next enhancement for the February release is the expanded Simplified Audit. So the ability to provide data auditing was a feature that was released last year. They've now enhanced that. So if you look here, you can now enable auditing for a variety of different options, not just data, not just dimension administration. You can also look at task lists, copy data commands, clear cell datas, approvals, all sorts of stuff. And then just like we looked at in the prior feature, very easy then to export this out into an Excel doc so that you can actually add some filters to it very quickly. You'd be able to filter by username very easily, see some of the activity a specific user is doing. If you had some data loss type issues within the application, or maybe a department is saying, they didn't change their planning unit for that budget cycle, but they're seeing data change. This is a very easy way to get to the bottom of that. If you turn on auditing and actually really use these new features here that allow you to kind of find that needle in the haystack, if you will, within your application. I do want to point out that, on the on-prem, version of Hyperion Planning, they had, auditing as well. And I think a lot of organizations moved away from it because there was a lot of performance issues with that, because the logs in the background would continue to build as activity was generated in the application. With our testing so far, we have not seen that large performance decrease within PBCS. So, again, I would actually recommend this is a helpful feature if you are having issues with your data audits and things like that, to actually enable these features and have it as maybe a monthly exercise that you can go through for some of your support teams. Just having a quick note on here that, within this feature of the release guide, Oracle specifically noted that the audit interface is evolving and is subject to change, which tells me that they're continuing to get feedback on this and are continuing to test the performance. And therefore, I would expect us to see additional enhancements and updates to this piece of functionality within PVCS moving forward. So this next one seemed like kind of an interesting idea to me. I'll be honest with you, I was not able to get my testing to work the way it was laid out in the release guide within our test environment. So the concept here is to provide the ability for end users to enter data into suppressed rows within data forms. So if you have a data form where you have suppressed missing data on your rows turned on, so that screenshot that I have there on the left, what that will do then on your form is if you don't have any data on those rows, it'll suppress it. So depending on the point of view of your form, you're not going to see those rows visible, even though they're technically in the database, right? Well, what this feature was supposed to allow is there was a new segment properties layer within the data form options, and you were supposed to be able to actually enable drop-down for dimensions. And what that would do then is it would allow you to drill into those suppressed rows after the fact. So kind of best of both worlds there. Again, not a huge showstopper by any means, but I was unable to find anything in the segment properties menu, and I tried a bunch of different point of view and changed the context multiple times, just couldn't get that segment properties to populate. So more to come on that, because I'm curious to see if they resolve any of the issues that I'm experiencing in this month for the March release. But again, by no means a showstopper here. So I don't think most of us are using Groovy Scripting, at least that I know of PBCS clients, but there was a slight change to some of the EPM Groovy scripting objects, specifically around some of the usage. So it sounds like kind of interesting here that Oracle has noticed that some of the commands were being used in ways that they were not designed to be used. And so Oracle, you see here, has some interesting verbiage saying that these usages are creative and positive, but some usage scenarios have caused issues for our end users. So what Oracle has done here is they've just basically upgraded the security model around some of these commands, so that basically they've made these methods privileged, so you would have to be an administrator of the system to be able to use these. You know, again, I don't think a lot of our clients are using Groovy Scripting to my knowledge, so probably a mute point here, but they do provide some alternative solutions in the meantime, and specifically some functions that can help you, get around some of the issues that they're seeing today. The last one from a PVCS perspective is just another reminder that the standard interface support has been removed as of last month. So by now, I think all of our clients and really anyone in the Oracle community that's using PBCS has really transitioned to that simplified interface. You know, you're either using SmartView and Excel, or you're using the simplified interface to navigate through and perform, data input, reporting, and administrative tasks. So just a quick reminder here. So the standard interface no longer available and supported within PBCS. So why don't we jump into the enterprise features now? So just some small ones for this release. 3 of them are related to the financials module, and 1 of them is related to the strategic modeling module. And some of this stuff is actually more of almost just kind of some reminders. So this first one is chart of account flexibility in financials. So as you roll out the financials module, you'll see that it gives you the flexibility to use your own chart of accounts, but still retain the benefits of the integrated financials framework. So you can kind of choose whether the provided chart of accounts will work with your business, or you can enable new features. And so this is just kind of a reminder that when you create your own chart of accounts, you can still do primary activities. So you can still use the existing forms and dashboards. You can still work with the existing integrated financial statement. You can still use existing calculations and business rules, and you can still integrate with the other business modules within EPBCS. So really not a huge impact here, but really more kind of a reminder of this. The second one is actually related, really looking at the flexible custom dimension in financials. So the big thing here is that you can have up to, I believe it's 5 additional custom dimensions. And so that's just, I don't think you would ever need 5, but if you do, just need to get some creative with some of your design strategies. But just kind of a reminder here that the custom dimensions in financials, you can enable them within the financials to leverage all those features. So kind of a small, almost a reminder update again. And this last one here, also around financials, is a configuration updates for financials. So basically, there's just more categories and components available when you're importing accounts, and you can actually select what features that you want to enable. So basically, categories and components provide logical groupings under which to add members. So really more around the metadata management of financials, but again, not really a huge update per se, but just some of a reminder of some of the features that are available within EPBCS here. So this last one from an enterprise perspective is regarding the strategic modeling module. And you can now choose to delete either a single model that has been created or an entire model hierarchy. So when you do choose to delete a model hierarchy, it will delete the parent and all of its descendants. So I think kind of pretty self-explanatory there. But the big thing here is the delete hierarchy option can save you some time if you're trying to restore a model from backup. So again, almost more kind of best practices in how to use some of these modules. And I've seen more and more of that in the documentation that has been released in the past months, really trying to make sure that EPBCS is as streamlined as possible, and that these different modules don't get too convoluted, because ultimately they are created to handle pretty much any exception under the sun. And so for some more simplistic modeling, it can be rather intimidating to start, but once you get used to it, you'll be able to understand what's needed from a support standpoint and what type of design strategies that you want to take into account to make sure that you're rolling out the best application for your end user community. So those were the new features for February. So again, not a huge release. I think January was very small, and that was kind of to be expected. February was kind of a medium-sized release. We'll see what March has in store, but did want to provide a couple updates on support items here. So the classic dimension editor, last month we were actually told that it would be February. They pushed it one additional month. So now the classic dimension editor will be officially discontinued next month. So March 16th is the official date. And again, those of you who are used to the simplified interface and are either using the simplified interface or SmartView to manage your dimensionalities, really no issues here. So more kind of a reminder, as I know we've been cascading this information for definitely a few months now. The next one is probably going to get old by now. I know they've been releasing this information for a long time, but the formal Financial Reporting Studio desktop client, the support around that for PBCS will be discontinued officially on April 20th. So that's been a date that's been kind of held constant for the last few months. It sounds like they're going to stick to it. Again, I know both Bob and I have been reminding folks that do use FR reporting within PBCS to really gravitate towards the web reporting studio for your development. And those of you who have, you've seen there's really full parity between the desktop client and the web version. It really looks pretty much exactly the same. Not a ton of changes there. So it really shouldn't be a huge transition effort there. So with that, look forward to, again, walking through next month's release items, kind of going through our checkpoints so that, you as an eCap client or PBCS user feel like you kind of have that green light and ready to go for the next month's updates. Just a helpful reminder to those who don't already subscribe to our updates, you can go on the eCap website, make sure you subscribe, and you can actually watch, on-demand past videos for every month. So if there's specific features that you see, within a random release in the middle of last year, feel free to go check out the videos around that. I think it can provide some helpful context on, best practices and just some additional information around it. Also, along the same lines, in December, we also did a PVCS top enhancements list of 2017. And so here's the high-level list, 10 all the way down to 1, kind of going with the approach of the David Letterman top 10 list. Definitely be a good video to check out for you, and let us know as you're reviewing any of those top 10 features, if there are some that your organization is not using today, but you want to learn more about or try to understand, maybe how you could leverage some of this technology to fit certain use cases or requirements that you're receiving from an administrator perspective. Certainly reach out to us and we can give you some ideas too, and help you fully understand all of these features, as we feel like it is very important. So with that, we'll open it up for questions. I haven't seen any come in yet. Nothing yet. So yeah, so again, we thank you for your time and look forward to next month's PBCS webinar, as we will walk through and review the March updates. Thanks.